Okay, so this is a slightly different one, and it comes from a conversation that I had with a guy called James, who has this YouTube channel called By the Curb. Again, it's one that I would recommend, and it basically does travel vids. And what I really like about him is his kind of expert video editing ability, his use of the camera, linking it all to music. Very, very creative guy. And he goes around places in Britain, but also parts of Eastern Europe as well. I remember watching one about Bratislava, which is a place that I know. I went to, I don't know, about 30 odd years ago. And I guess people like him provide a very important service in that they show Brits what places abroad are really like, because I think the danger is that if you rely on the Daily Mail or BBC TV programmes about Bratislava or whatever, you'll often come away with the wrong impression. And what they love to portray about Eastern Europe is somehow these countries are incredibly poor. Nothing's really changed since the demise of communism, and the living standards are really low, much lower than what's in Britain. And what this James has done through his videos, whether he's done it on purpose or accidentally, I suspect the latter actually, is that he's shown that these places have got an absolutely fantastic standard of living, both in terms of materially. So how can you tell that? Well, when he does these travel vlogs, you can, look around Bratislava. There's no empty shop units like you would find in the capital of Great Britain, London. There's no litter on the streets in these places. People are well dressed. There's not as many ill-looking people who are just massively overweight. People look, in places like Bratislava, as though they're eating better quality food. They look healthier, which for me is a sign and symptom of a better standard of living. Also as well, there's seems to be a bit more of a society in those sorts of places, so people can walk around late at night. There seems to be less of a concern about the fear of crime in those sorts of places. Anyway, so I highly recommend this channel. Anyway, when I was having this email correspondence with this guy James, he asked me about Finland and is it expensive? Because this is one of the myths that the BBC and the British mainstream project about this part of the world, about the North. Finland's not part of Scandinavia. Incidentally, never say to a Finn that Finland's part of Scandinavia, because they won't like you. It's a Nordic country, and basically what you're supposed to think when you hear Nordic country or Scandinavian country, so Norway, Denmark, Sweden in the case of Scandinavia, Nordic countries are those three plus Finland and Iceland, is that they're ridiculously expensive, and Britain's far cheaper than those sorts of places. And what I want to do in this video is just to sort of explore some of those myths using some facts. So the first pitfall is the exchange rate, because Britain and the rest of Europe operate different currencies. Britain's got the pound. Most of the rest of the EU, bar Sweden, and a few other exceptions, use the euro. Finland uses the euro. So a lot of Brits, they immediately assume that the exchange rate is 1-to-1. So if something costs, I don't know, €5, they'll wrongly assume that that's equivalent to £5. And it's not. It's about 15%, 15, 17, something like that percent less. Because at the moment, as of the end of January 2024, £1 buys €1.17. So it's a mistake to assume that the exchange rate is 1-for-1. So in these comparisons, I'll actually do the exchange rate conversion for you, more or less in my head, and I'll just show you how you can do that. The first thing that's different here is that every week the major supermarkets, they put leaflets through your door that show you what they've got on offer. And even Lidl does that. In Finland, there's like 3 or 4 big supermarket chains, including Lidl. This one here, K-Market, is quite interesting in the sense that it's run as franchises. So it's a national chain, but if you go into a K-Market in Kankaanpää, the stuff that they have on for sale there might be quite different from a K-Market in Pori, because the owner of the shop runs it as a franchise and they're given freedom about where to source products from. So you get a lot more local things. The other big difference is there's a massive emphasis on products that have been made in Finland. And this was something that caught Lidl out, actually, was that when they first came to Finland, what they decided to do was adopt the same business model, the same supply chain model as cheap and cheerful. So they would just buy stuff from whichever country could produce it cheapest. And that didn't go down well with Finns, because Finns are quite happy to pay a price premium for a product that's been made in Finland. And I think that there's 2 reasons for that. The first reason is a quality difference. So finished products, food products, like say, for example, the tomatoes that you saw a minute ago, those are produced in Finland. So you think, well, how can they grow tomatoes in the snow? Well, answer is inside heated greenhouses. So they're pretty expensive tomatoes, but the point of it is that they can be picked when they're ripe. Because if you've got tomatoes that are being grown where I am in Pori and they're picked ripe, they can be sold ripe before they go off. Whereas if you're going to a Lidl store in Guildford and those tomatoes have come from Spain, it probably has taken 2 weeks for those tomatoes to arrive in Lidl in Guildford. So they'll have been picked green. So that's why they taste horrible. So Finns will pay a price premium for locally produced food that's been made in Finland that they believe, and I think they're right, quite often tastes better than imports. The second reason is what you might call economic nationalism. So Finns support each other. So they realise that if they buy imports, then they're casting their spending votes in the daily economic election on supporting jobs in other countries. So they're quite happy to pay a price premium to help their fellow Finns and to create jobs, to keep people in employment. And again, I understand that. I've often said this, a long time ago. It was like Finland's like a big club, basically. It's like a massive family, and the family members look after each other. And that's not just done through mummy government for the socialists. It's actually done through private actions, like, for example, people being willing to pay a price premium to buy a local product. Not just a local product that's being made in Finland, but actually a local product that's being made in their region of Finland. Where I am, that's Satakunta. I'll give you some examples of the prices. So this is some pork, and it's €7 a kilo. So that's going to work out. If you take sort of 15% off that, 10% would be 70, wouldn't it? So 15% would be €1. So take €1 off that. That would be £5.95. Pound sterling for a kilo of pork, and that's easily enough for to feed a family at least a meal. I'm sure there'll be people who say that that's extravagant, but still it's not bad. Again, you can see here this Snellman that's produced in Finland. That's pretty cheap. You've got beef, 15% fat, €9 a kilo. A lot of meat. Finns like meat. Kivikulan, that's produced about half an hour drive from here, so that's €6 a kilo. Some more beef produced. Horkor is a Finnish producer, so €15 a kilo. This is Lidl, so €2.50 for a kilo of finished produced tomatoes. Finished chicken, €5. I presume is that per kilo? I'm not sure about that. But again, you know, you can see the blue swan there, so that's telling people that it's been produced in Finland. Onions, some more veggies, flowers. So there's a big emphasis here. What's this? We've got some baked goods here. We've got some naughty cakes, Runenberry tortu. We got some jam donuts. So everything where it's possible is, again, this is Lidl, is produced in Finland. Again, this is again Lidl, €3 a kilo for these moikku. So these are like small, like salmonoid like fish. The vendace, they're actually called in English. Some more meat there, finished produced. Some beef, again, finished produced. We got some like yogurt drinks, finished produced. Blue cheese. So again, now you can see here all sorts of different food products, but you know what's prominent here is this badge telling people that it's being produced in Finland. So for me personally, I think the price of food here is pretty good, really. And if you bear in mind the quality is absolutely fantastic. In fact, I don't really trust Lidl. I don't know why, but I just don't. I wouldn't buy meat from Lidl because I just don't trust them. I'd buy it from K Market or S Market or one of the other Finnish owned chains because I just don't trust Lidl. And then also the other point as well is that the profits made by Lidl in Finland are going to be repatriated out of Finland and are going to be enriching shareholders in Germany rather than enriching Finns. Like S Market, for example, is a cooperative, so it's a business that's owned by its customers. But what about beer? Isn't that really expensive? So this is a locally produced beer. I suppose you'd call it a craft beer. It's 5.3%, and that cost me $2.25. But then the thing about that is that you get 15 cents back when you recycle it. Again, you can see the Finnish flag there saying that it's been produced in Finland. So you know, if you take that into account and the exchange rate, then you know you're talking about 170, something like that, for this tin of beer, and it's a craft beer as well. So this will have been brewed to the German beer purity law, so it'll only be water, malt, barley, and hops. So there's no additives, colourings and stuff like that. So that's fair enough, I think. At my local pub, I pay €5.50 for half a litre of beer, so just under a pint, €5.50. So basically, a pint of beer at my local pub in Sterling costs about €4.70. And you know, it's a privately owned pub. It's not like, you know, again, they'll have Brits like talking about JD Wetherspoons, but, you know, like with respect, JD Wetherspoons isn't really like a pub, is it, really? It's more like drinking a beer on a park bench. It's, you know, it's not, you know, you're not going to have live music there, and it's just going to be a bit like having a drink at an airport, you know, in one of them departure lounge bars. That's what I always feel at JD Wetherspoons is like. You know, the only thing that's missing is those display boards that say go to gate 34. So what about other stuff? Parking, for example. Parking in Porry, most of it is free. Where I used to live in Guildford, you know, you could easily spend £7 or £8 just parking for a few hours. So that's a huge difference, you know. Train fares is another one. I used to live in Guildford, but I'd go up to Morecambe watching football, you know, and that was over £100 for a cheap day return. And it's like, I don't know, to get up from Euston to Lancaster, it's like 3 hours. Here in Porry, if I want to go to Tampere, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours train ride, it's like €15. and that's as a walk-on fare. So again, um, you just have to look beyond the propaganda of the BBC. The BBC will say that these kind of Nordic countries are ridiculously expensive, but and even Finns might believe that, but then they might change their mind when they actually go to somewhere like London and they're ending up paying, like £9 a pint. In fact, you can get ripped off in Helsinki too. If you go to the wrong sort of place in Helsinki, you could probably pay €9 a pint there, which would be cheaper, but it's still too much in my opinion. So like €9 is less than £9 because of the exchange rate. In terms of energy costs, we don't use natural gas here in Finland domestically, so you won't find any houses that have gas central heating boilers or anything like that. No one cooks on gas. It's all electric. So here in the summertime, it was possible to get a 2-year fixed rate deal for 10 cents a kilowatt hour. In Britain, it's like, I think the fixed price that you've got, that because you don't have a free market for electricity in the UK, it's all like there's a maximum price, isn't it, that's been set by the government, which is about, we're only paying for electricity, not like you guys, electricity and gas. And obviously the other big difference is the homes are more modern, so they're better insulated, so they're more energy efficient. Another big difference is taxation. Where I used to live in Guildford, lived in a small, notionally it was a 3-bedroomed house, but the 3rd bedroom was like a box room, and I was paying over £2,000 a year in council tax. The equivalent tax in Finland that pays is €200 a year, less than that actually. So it's another huge difference in terms of living costs that's on the side of Finland. And I'd say another big difference as well is just sort of, what would you say, like the pay to live factor. So in England, I think people have got used to just this idea that to enjoy themselves, they have to go somewhere and spend money on something. Whereas the mentality in Finland is a little bit different, in that Finns are, I think, a bit more closer to nature. And of course, it costs nothing to go and pick, I don't know, a few litres of blueberries in the summer in the forest, or go like picking mushrooms in the autumn, or going fishing. It doesn't; these things don't cost anything, but they're really good fun. They're more, again, I might be biased, but if you ask me, would I rather go berry picking blueberries and lingonberries in the forest, or would I rather go to the Trafford Centre? I know which one I'd pick. Another thing that I would say is that when I went back to England, what I've noticed is a huge increase in the cost of living since I left. So what that indicates to me is that I was right in predicting inflation. And inflation's caused when the central bank stroke government, same difference, prints miles more money. So the supply of money grows at a faster rate than the supply of goods and services. In fact, in Britain, the supply of goods and services fell due to lockdowns. And at the same time, they were massively increasing spending power through furlough. Like 19 million people paid 80% of their wages to sit at home and do nothing for like a year. £50,000 bounce back loans that were just blown on stuff. Help out to eat out. So actions have consequences. So that's, for Brits, that's why your cost of living has gone up massively. Here in Finland, there has been inflation, but nowhere near as much. So when I arrived here in November 2020, a pint at my local pub cost, what did it cost? €5. Now it costs €5.50. So that's a 10% increase in like 3 and a bit years. And I'm sure that that's, inflation in Britain in terms of buying booze from pubs, is probably 2 or 3 times that, and going up out all the time. So for Brits, what would my advice be? It would be, try to move away from the supermarkets and buy direct from local producers. So I'll just give you some examples of like local producers here that I routinely buy. So you've got this one here, Satamaito. So this is the milk produced by a dairy in Satakunta, which is the county that Porr is located in. This butter again is produced by, I think it's a cooperative. You know, so again, it's made in Finland, but it's also made in this part of in this region of Finland. This Kulan, Kivi means stone, Kulan village, stone village. So it's about 30 minutes drive away. Produce absolutely fantastic smoked meat products. And then I bought this the other day. So this is locally produced honey. So produced in this place called Luvia, which is, you know, again, about 30 minutes drive from here, maybe less. When you buy these products, pay cash. So, you know, it's all very well for people to moan about Sainsbury, like, or Asda introducing self-checkouts and, you know, banning cash and whatever, or moaning about the poor quality of food. What I'm saying to you is, in Britain, I remember when I lived in Croydon and Guildford, actually, there was still like market stalls. You know, do you remember them? Like markets with like trestle tables and like covers, and they sold like locally produced fruit and veg and locally produced meat. Use them. Like, whilst you still have them, use them. If you keep on like going to Asda because it's like a few pence cheaper or whatever, you're going to put those small farmers out of business. And, you know, that you can't then blame about the monopoly that you created for the supermarkets, because you actually created it because you were too lazy. So get out of your like car, go to support local producers, go to local markets and just buy direct and use cash. So that's all I want to say today. So is Finland expensive? I would say the cost of living for me personally is a lot lower for me personally in Finland than it is in England. A lot lower. Also things, you know, like, I don't know, if you want to get your car fixed, it's not the same like rip-off factor. People aren't so mad keen on ripping each other off here. So as I said before, when I've had work done, had quotes, most of the time the quote's been, the bill has been less than the quote. So, you know, can't say more than that, can you? Anyway, that's all I'm going to say today. So God bless.